This is for the men who've been told that they're too sensitive, that sensitivity is a weakness in their life. We live in a world where we're often bombarded with ideas of masculinity and femininity as if they are personas or constructions of the ego that we jump into and must abide by. But the reality is that these are just energies that are genderless. I'm not saying that this isn't going to be a conversation about transgenderism or being non-binary before you mistakenly think that that's where this is headed. But I'm 25, and in my short time on this planet, we've gone through, even in just the last 4 years, we've gone through cycles of, shaming men for having any version of masculinity and it being seen as toxic, which of course there are toxic men, just as there are toxic people. That then created a counterculture which involved a subgroup of men who were wrongfully being shamed, who were open-minded, who were sensitive, who were willing to integrate the feminine energy into their own masculine being. I am one of those individuals, at least I was in that moment. And the truth, as much as I don't like to admit it, is that this counterculture which propped up certain ideals that we view as masculine as exactly that, as ideals for us to subscribe to and to chase and to embody. And those are often seen as, discipline, having a go-getter mentality, but also that being misconstrued into being domineering and dominating the world around us, and feeding into this survival of the fittest mentality, which isn't necessarily relevant or has to be relevant in the world that we live in or can create with the resources we have available. For a long time, I have been so scared of showing my true nature and my true essence. I'm an individual who is highly creative and passionate and loving and wants to give all of that to the world, but a world that isn't necessarily ready to receive that in the way that I can give. And that's been very hard as someone who is constantly yearning for that. I've looked for it in all the wrong places. I've looked for it in places that seem right initially, but ultimately lead to a dead end. And with a lot of growth and a lot of shadow work and dealing with the parts of me that I might have pushed down or were afraid to admit were there, and what those parts of me were telling me about my true essence and my true nature, led to this understanding that actually my sensitivity as a man is a superpower. And it is, yes, it is looked down upon or is misunderstood by the world around us. But for us as men who are sensitive to step into that and be radical in our expression of that, to me, that gives us an edge. That gives us an integrated version of masculinity, or what it is to be a man. If we look at someone like Jesus as an example, now I'm not actively identifying as a Christian, have a lot of respect for Christians, but let's not go on that tangent. Bottom line is, I like to study religious figures and spiritual figures, and one of those figures is Jesus Christ. And when you look at his version of masculinity, you see a version that is holistic in its approach. There's a time to be stern, there's a time to give love in that particular way, and there's a time for you to be able to show a level of empathy and understanding for people. And I think Jesus shows me that that is true leadership as a man, and that if we let go or we shame our sensitivities and our ability to feel as men, then ultimately we're shutting off a side of ourselves that is essential for moving humanity further along. What I mean by further along and progress is not more profit-making, soul-sucking organizations and ventures, but things that actually bring purpose and meaning and allow for the average human to be a part of something that they feel benefits this world. To show up as a highly sensitive man and embrace that label that is bestowed upon us, and sometimes the negative connotations or misunderstandings that people have of that phrase, is actually radically masculine if you understand and frame it from a place of courageousness. A lot of us men have had periods where we look at the women in our lives and we see someone who is highly emotional in a sense of them not being able to necessarily regulate, but we often completely overlook how that looks like in us. As a man, and even a sensitive man, I am highly impressive in my ability to intellectualize my emotions. But the part of myself that was shaming my sensitive essence and that sensitive side of me was not allowing me to actually sit with those emotions in the body and really feel and dive into what those feelings are and what the thoughts that they produce tell me about myself and my soul and its mission and the alignment that I need to have in this world. If this sensitivity allows me and you to be more trustworthy, more compassionate, and deeply connected as a partner, as a friend, as a brother, as a sister. Not a sister. But more importantly, ourselves, then all that's gonna give us is the skill set and the tools to truly navigate and manifest a life that is truly aligned with who we are and the vision we want to bestow into this world. That vision needs to be from a place of not just the self and our own interests and desires, but something that aligns with that, plus benefiting this world outside of ourselves. I might be wrong, but the more I embrace my sensitivity as a man, the more I allow myself to truly get to know myself, and the more I'm equipped to make better, more informed decisions about the way that I lead my life. If being sensitive allows me to do that, then at what point do I look at myself and identify how I've been falling into changing my essence and who I am out of shame? Shame that's from other people who might not necessarily understand this in the same way, or might not have the balls, in my view, to overcome the intense conditioning we've had as males. Well, it's up to me to have the courage to let go of that and move into a paradigm that I actually believe is more authentic and a accurate representation of the nature of reality. If being sensitive allows me to operate my life through a lens of abundance, a lens of love, a lens of really connecting with the people around me, I move energetically away from the emotions and the frequencies of fear and shame and guilt, and I move and step into love and light and abundance and gratitude. And in a metaphysical sense, that is what we need as humans in order to create a reality for ourselves and for the others around us that is more conducive of a world that is in harmony. I've come to realize that living this way and having the balls to express these truths about ourselves and to live our life each day in more accordance to that, to me is a even truer, more holistic definition of what it means to be masculine. So yeah, I know that this has been a little bit of a ramble, but I just really hope that I can empower more men to accept this about themselves and to not view it as a hindrance to who they are and who they're called to be, but actually quite the opposite. Your sensitivity is your empowerment. I think I'm supposed to say bye before I do peace, but yeah. Peace!